For me, gender equality is fundamental. When I joined it, it was a process-driven, hierarchical industry, male-dominated. We must do better in achieving better gender equality at all positions. Don't micromanage them. Give them the chance to do these things, and they become a role model for other younger females, and not just females, but younger people coming into the industry. Inclusion of youth and positive promotion of a youth policy, these are all things we can do just to make sure this takes hold, and we do.
So welcome to another episode of Women in Ports. I'm really pleased to have my guest here today, who's a very prominent figure in the ports industry, who needs no introduction. So Charles Hammond, take it away. So welcome very much.
Thank you, Raj. I'm delighted to be here and looking forward to a good conversation.
Great. So today, obviously, we've told you a little bit about women in ports, what we're trying to achieve to bring that gender diversity up a little bit. But today's topic, I think, is all about the senior leaders in the industry and the impact that they make. But I think it'd be really good for everyone to just know a little bit about your journey into the ports industry and what drew you into this field initially.
So I joined the industry in 1989, so a long time ago, 35 plus years ago. At the time, a really traditional industry, but an industry that was looking to go places. So the ambition was there to privatise the ports. The ambition was there to produce a much more flexible labour scheme than the dock labour scheme, and the ability to invest and grow. So these were all the things that were, at the time, just nascent ambitions, but not realities. And that attracted me as a young guy of 27. I wanted to play a part in that industry.
And so what did you actually do? What was your first role into the industry?
So my first role, because I came from the legal profession, I was the company secretary at the then Fourth Ports Authority, and it was a public body. Yeah. I joined 6 months before the dock labour scheme was abolished. So I've had a fantastic journey, 35 years of seeing an industry transformed into something essential for the good of our economy and the good of our decarbonisation programme. So fantastic journey for me.
And I know that one thing we've spoke about quite a lot is your ambition to bring the youth into the industry and to really train up the youth to be better leaders and start young. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you did at Forth for that? I think we spoke about a little bit earlier today about a youth board.
Yes, I mean, at Forth, when I was CEO, I chaired the graduate board. And that was a fantastic experience, really, because we were able to start talking to the young graduates and young apprentices in the business about what they cared about, what mattered to them, what they thought about and how they thought. Because obviously different generations will think about issues in a different way, although not so differently, I found. And it was a good way of developing people's values and their loyalty to the company. And for me, I got the chance to get a lot of responsibility in the industry at the age of 27. And for me, therefore, giving younger people responsibility, the chance to develop themselves, work in an industry they care about, these were all important things. And I think diversity comes from not just diversity of gender, race or whatever, but also diversity of age and people's perspectives. And I've found that a great programme in Forth Ports.
So I think we've spoken a lot about this because I'm always talking about diversity of thought. It's not sometimes so clear cut about, gender or colour or whatnot, but it's that different walks of life essentially, right? But like just thinking about for this purpose, gender equality and the women in the ports industry. I know, like, under your leadership, you've recruited a few female leaders into Forth Ports. What was that impact like, and how has that evolved?
For me, gender equality is fundamental, and it makes good business sense, because if you have a male-dominated industry, you're missing 50% of the talent in this country. So why would you miss out on that opportunity? So for me, getting strong female leadership into the industry gives us a wide spectrum of views. Now, we have some fantastic female leaders in the industry, but also at Fourth Ports, people like Carol Cran, Pamela Smith, Michelle Primrose, all have really developed the company and the thought process and the strategy of the company in fantastic ways.
I think one thing after speaking to them, because I had individual conversations for the purpose of Women in Ports, they really valued your leadership and that mentorship into those roles. So what do you think the role is for mentorship when it comes from male allies for female leaders?
I think it's making sure, I've found in my experience, it's important to give female leaders confidence. Sometimes they lack a little bit of confidence. So your belief in their ability is where it all starts. And if you believe in their ability and you give them the freedom, empowerment to do the job and express themselves and show their talents, that's really what it's all about. And then don't micromanage them.
Yeah.
Give them the chance to do these things, and they become a role model for other younger females, and not just females, but younger people coming into the industry. They become role models, and their qualities start to, if you like, come through the business.
I think, I don't think it's just younger. I mean, people like me, who, 41 here, and...
That's young for me, by the way.
In my head, it's all 20. But, I look up to people like Carol and Pamela especially, because of the unique perspective that they bring. So I think it's just, if they can do it, it gives you confidence that you can do it. And I think that role model plays a massive role in bringing up, I think, females in the rank especially. Just thinking about the boardroom and the perspectives and the strengths, what unique perspective do women bring, especially when you have a board meeting that you're part of?
So I think, I don't want to generalise here because it would be wrong to do so, but the qualities I've seen, the ability to read the room and to empathise and to understand a point of view, the ability to listen. And what I've also found is not only attention to detail, but the ability to handle complex commercial situations, reduce them to their essence, and also organisational flair and talent development. These are all some of the qualities I've seen round the table from my executive colleagues, female colleagues.
And so when did the female leadership change at Forth? Like, when did it become more females on the board?
I suppose over the last decade, really. But for me, it was just a process of picking talented people.
Yeah.
We've had, obviously, females on the board before.
Yeah.
But I would say it's really taken hold in the last decade.
Yeah.
And I sense a change in the industry as well.
Yeah.
In the last decade, a more outward-looking industry, an industry that's being recognised by government for the essential role it plays. And because the industry has that confidence, the industry then becomes more outward-looking about the talent it develops and attracts. And I think we're in an uncertain world. And therefore, to attract people into an industry that gives them possibly a lifetime of employment, certainly long-term employment and development prospects, is a really appealing thing for anybody younger coming in.
Yeah, I think sometimes as ports, we're not the greatest of storytellers, I feel. We have an amazing story to tell, especially during COVID pandemic. The economy was still running because of the industry, goods were still coming into the country. And so I think sometimes we need to do better to promote it, I think. Just thinking about your role as a CEO at Forth Ports and the change in the last decade with females coming on board, how has that been? How's the reception been for that with the rest of your colleagues in the wider staff?
I think the reception has been totally positive because people recognise ability when they see it. And they recognise something different. They recognise people who are on their side. So that ability, that talent has taken hold now. And when you look at our industry, there is a great story to tell. I mean, what industry pays 30% above the UK average wage, is 40% more productive than the UK average, and invests hundreds of millions of pounds a year in new facilities? There are not many industries as successful and as consistent as that. And I think, not to attract the full spectrum of talent in our country and abroad into that industry would be a crime.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what practical steps can industry leaders take to promote diversity and inclusion within ports?
I think one of the fundamental steps is to encourage youth, because youth, and certainly the generation today, are very conscious of diversity. So that in itself helps. But I think there are educational programs. There are also, when you appoint someone into a senior role, people in the workforce are looking very carefully. So you appoint somebody of ability, they say, this is good, we want some more of this. So I think that advocacy role, promotion, positive programs, inclusion of youth, and positive promotion of a youth policy, these are all things we can do just to make sure this takes hold. And we must do better.
Yeah.
We must do better in achieving better gender equality at all positions in our industry. And I think that's something that CEOs must be advocating all the time.
Just thinking about your time as chair of your youth board, what were some of the key themes that came out from that? Like, what were some of the challenges or some of the things that the youth were really concerned about?
I think they wanted to know what the long-term direction of the company was. They certainly wanted to hear more about our path towards net zero. They wanted to make sure that their values were embedded within the values of the company. And what was interesting was when we started to talk about issues, despite the age gap, we tended to see a lot of the issues the same way. And ultimately, what we have now is a market-led, purpose-driven industry. When I joined it, it was a process-driven, hierarchical industry, male-dominated. The elements are there now to include everybody going forward. And I think the youth of today recognise that. It would have been really difficult 35 years ago to get young graduates coming into the industry. It would have been structured, it would have been siloed, whereas now it's flexible, it's open looking, it's what do you want to do? What contribution do you want to make? And we'll fit that in for you.
And just thinking about perception. So I've been doing a lot of data gathering, going to different ports to understand what some of the issues and challenges for women. And some of them are historical perceptions about loads of the roles being male dominated. According to you, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions about working in the ports industry?
I think there's this still traditional attitude that there are only certain manual jobs that can be done by men. Well, that's nonsense in a modern industry, because what we're really doing is we're processing information. We're using the investment we make in plant and equipment and data to organise jobs, to carry out jobs more efficiently. This is not about manual lugging of things, to put not too fine a point on it. So I think for me, that's the fundamental misconception. There is no job I can think of off the top of my head that a woman couldn't do in the ports industry.
And how do you think technology and automation play a role in this?
I think a fundamental role in the industry, but it's also important that we encourage women to have the qualifications, and we'll give them qualifications. We need to see more women engineers, for example, data analysts as well. These are important aspects of the job now. Plant and equipment maintenance, plant and equipment planning, data processing. These are all elements of a modern port industry. Investment planning. And every day is different in our industry. Shipping is not a predictable industry. Something changes every single day, and people have to plan on their feet. So that agility of thought and a slightly entrepreneurial tendency to solve problems, all things which women can do just as well as men. There is no difference in that. So I think for me, it's encouraging making the job attractive, making the industry attractive, and attracting the best talent we can get.
Yeah. So thinking about just those technical roles, especially those STEM engineering roles, traditionally it's definitely been very much male dominated, but what would you say to a woman who is slightly wary of taking on that technical role and doesn't maybe have the confidence to go into the room just full of men, like what would you give that advice to them, what they, how they should better handle themselves in that situation?
I would say believe in yourself. The company will support you in your journey. The best place for you to come in might be an apprenticeship where you learn.
Yeah.
It may be that you've got some base qualifications and an interest in engineering anyway. Mm-hmm. So if you have the interest and you have the care and the passion for that discipline, let that passion and care trump your nervousness and lack of confidence, and the company will support you in that.
So just thinking about when we talk about emotional awareness or just awareness in general, as women, and I can just say this from my perspective, as women, sometimes when we walk into a room, we are thinking about certain perceptions and maybe not being felt heard. As a leader, do you pick up those little nuances in a room when sometimes it can become a bit of a boys' club? Like, do you actually see that, or is that something maybe that we need to be more aware of?
I think we should be more aware of it. I've seen it before. Mm-hmm. And my solution is very often just to have a quiet word and say, you had something useful to say there. Make sure your voice is heard and have the confidence to do that. So as a leader, you can facilitate an open debate.
Yeah.
And you can notice, because some people are introverted.
Yeah.
Some people are extroverts. And the introverted people very often have some really valuable things to say, but they need to be encouraged to do so. And so your responsibility as a leader to know your people and to facilitate a debate that includes everybody. And
so now just to flip it on the other side, what can you say to men who are just unaware? It's not intentional. It's sometimes just unaware of sometimes how women might feel. What would be your advice to men to be those better champions?
I think it's just to value your colleagues, listen better. And talk to them and be aware, be more aware, be more conscious. When you're on, it's very easy when you're on the quayside you think you're doing the same thing every day. Actually, something changes every day. So be aware of things. And your colleagues change from day to day as well. Sometimes they might be a wee bit more down. Sometimes they're a little bit more sparky and fiery. And be aware of those changes and help to harness and give people confidence, make them feel part of a team.
Yeah. And just thinking about innovations, is there any particular innovation you would like to see in the industry related to inclusion and opportunity for not just women, but young people as well?
I think that the problem with single one-off innovations are you're never quite sure if they'll take hold. So for me, it's about consistency of message and consistency of narrative, that certainly the CEOs in the industry have to have a good day every day. And that good day means that your narrative is positive and it's always thinking about inclusion, it's thinking about diversity, and it's giving people a lift and confidence. So rather than just seeing one-off innovations, I'd rather see that consistency of message spreading.
Yeah. And just thinking for the future, are there any particular skills or experiences that you would recommend young professionals pursue before entering the field?
I think there's a variety. A lot depends on what your interest is. But I think if you are, if you study, if you're able to think, if you care about people, if you listen to people, you may have a specific interest in how things work. You may have an interest in how data is managed. That's all fine. And that, I would say you don't have to be too specialised to come into our industry, that your values have to be there. Yeah. You have to care about the purpose that the industry serves. And if you want to serve that purpose, then we have got loads of training courses and do the rest for you.
Looking back at your journey and, your time in the industry, would you have done anything differently?
Lots of mistakes. You always make lots of mistakes, but I think you look back and you say we took the right decision with the best information we can get. I think what I've learned is that when you take decisions, it's important to collaborate and make sure you've taken account of a wide spectrum of views. It comes back to this diversity question. When you're making an important decision, have you got enough of a diversity of views? Because if you have the same people in the room who have the same personality type and have the same way of thinking, you may not get the right decision. You've got to have someone who will question, who will challenge, who will debate. So for me, no particular regrets. I've had a fantastic career. I would say that if I'd wished anything, maybe a little bit more debate around some of our decision making.
Yeah. And finally, in terms of women in ports, in 3 words, what should women in ports be, according to you?
Key to its long-term success and prosperity. That's too many words.
Too many words, but it's fine. But thank you so much, Charles. It's been really, really interesting. And there's so much that leaders, senior leaders, aspiring leaders can really take from this conversation. So thank you very much.